Shalom Aleichem, Assalamu Alaikum, peace be unto you. Welcome back to the Septuagint versus the Masoretic YouTube channel. Please ignore this title at the top there. It's not the day of Shavuot or Pentecost that we were talking about today. It is Judges. Chapter 2 is what we're going to be looking at. There are 23 verses in this chapter. Once this browser wakes up, there it is. We're going to cover the big differences, significant differences between the Septuagint and the Masoretic translations. Beginning in verse 1, we have an omission of "to the place of weeping." And to Bethel, and to the house of Israel, and said to them. Whereas in the Masoretic, all it says is Bochim, or Bochim, however you want to pronounce that. In verse 2, significant difference here. And you shall make no covenant with them that dwell in this land, neither shall you worship their gods, but you shall destroy their graven images. You shall pull down their altars. But you hearken not to my voice, for you did these things. That's a lot. That's a lot of text. Let's look at the Masoretic. And you shall make no league with the inhabitants of this land. So covenant versus league. You shall throw down their altars. But you have not obeyed my voice. Why have you done this? So the difference here is we have omissions of worship their gods. So okay, you can worship their gods, apparently, in the Masoretic. You shall destroy their graven images, so you don't need to do that either. All you have to do is pull down their altars. For you did these things. Okay, so the Septuagint is telling them, you did these things, matter-of-factly. In the Masoretic, it's a question. Why have you done this? So give me the rationale versus a statement. You did these things versus a question. So that's verse 2. Verse 3. But they shall be for a distress to you, and their gods shall be to you for an offense. Masoretic. But they shall be as thorns in your sides. So rather than a distress, there will be, in brackets, so this was inserted, they shall be in your sides, so distress versus in your sides. And their Elohim, their gods, shall be a snare unto you. So one's an offense, one's a snare. I wouldn't say that's a major difference, but it's worth mentioning anyway. We're going to skip over these verses until verse 7. So we have a mentionable, new, okay, versus seen, all the great work of Yah. So it's one thing to know of his great work, it's one thing to have seen it. So what's the difference there? Well, knowing about it means you remember it. It means you don't have to have been there. Let me just read the context. The people served Yah all the days of Yeshua, or Yehoshua, and all the days of the elders that lived many days with Yehoshua, as many as knew all the great work of the Lord. So it seems that they were familiar, not just familiar, they perhaps witnessed it. So knowing could imply having seen it already, having witnessed these things with their own eyes. Whereas seen is just simply seeing it with your eyes. So perhaps they didn't remember it. I don't know. It's just me inserting my own opinion there. But that's the difference there, knowing versus seeing. So you could still see something but not really know or understand why that work happened, or what is the rationale behind it, perhaps even. verses 12 to 13 are actually one, like they should be taken together. Verse 14, we're going to skip that. Okay, let's look at 12 to 13 just to make sure we don't miss anything significant. Okay, looks like they're pretty much, for the most part, the same. So we'll skip over that. Verse 14, there's an omission of they spoiled them. So it actually did happen, or it happened. So Israel were spoiled, meaning people looted them. But it says the same thing in both translations. Verse 15, afflicted versus distressed. So one is physically afflicted versus emotionally distressed. Verse 16, a possible typo. So I need to check my hard copy. If you just give me a moment to get my hard copy. Okay, welcome back. So Judges 2 verse 16. I said here there's a possible typo. So let's look it up in the hard copy. This is Brenton Septuagint. And it says, and Yah raised up judges. Okay. And Yah saved them out of the hands of them that spoiled them. And yet they heard not to the judges. Yeah, so the typo is save them, so that's grammatically incorrect. Let's look at the hard copy. It says here, and the Lord raised up judges, and the Lord saved them. Okay, so this is not a typo in the hard copy. It actually is saved. So it is saved them. So it's a typo on the internet. Q Bible. So I just put in brackets the D, and I'll say confirmed. Saved in Brenton's. Okay, so you're going to notice in the days to come, we're going to have a lot more uploads in the coming 3 weeks. And I'll explain why, maybe in another video, because it's not really to do with this topic. So I might do a separate vlog just for that, separate upload. So we've confirmed that this was not a typo in the hard copy. This is a internet typo. So moving on. Verse 17. Significant differences here. Difference. Words versus commandments. So they went a-whoring after other gods. Worshipped them. They turned quickly out of the way in which their fathers walked to listen to the words of the Lord. To listen to the words. So it's not just the commandments, it's even the words themselves. Because just listening to the commandments, or ignoring them, I should say, is a different thing altogether. So obeying the commandments versus listening to the words means you're not even you're not open to the commandments, since the commandments are part of the words. The words are all-encompassing. It's like an umbrella statement that includes the commandments. They would be included in the statement, listening to the words. And when you listen to the words, you should be doing them based on the Hebraic understanding of what listen means, to hear and do. But here, obeying, simply obeying, it's not including the listening aspect. In verse 18, moved, the word moved. The Lord was moved at their groaning. by reason of them that besieged them and afflicted them. So what does moved mean? Okay, my personal opinion is that Yah, the Lord, was emotionally moved with compassion and mercy. That's my sharing my 2 cents there. However, in the Masoretic, it says repented. It repented Yah. So he turned away from, because of their groanings. So he turned away from something, from delivering them into the hand of their enemies. So he turned from that because of the oppression of those that oppressed them and vexed them because of their groanings. So it's one thing to turn, but he's actually emotionally moved. Yeah, it does seem a little strange to refer to the Eternal, our Father in heaven, as one that has emotions. Is he emotional? Does he have emotions? Well, I'd ask you the same question. Are you emotional? Do you have emotions? And one would then ask the question, is a greater being, do they have emotions? Or is a lesser being emotional? I would say, personal opinion, only higher beings have emotions. Not only do they have emotions, they know how to express them. And it's one thing to be able to express emotions, but it's another thing altogether to know the appropriate time to do it, and for the right reasons as well. Because as not everyone knows this, but there's a right time and place for everything, for every situation under the sun. So if one were to cry at a wedding or a funeral, that seems okay. But if one were to laugh during a funeral, you would probably look at that person strange, especially if it's a Middle Eastern funeral where people are wailing. It's not a place where people are jubilant and overly joyous. Okay, so that's my answer there, my opinion on that. Besieged and afflicted, so they were surrounded and oppressed, versus oppressed and vexed, which seems to be a redundancy. They mean the same thing. Verse 19 has a possible typo, so I'm going to check this one as well. It says here, and to worship them. So it's missing a D. So let's double check in the hard copy. This is verse 19 of Judges 2. Verse 19 reads here, "It came to pass when the judge died." Okay, is this the correct verse? Oh, okay, it is. When the judge died, that they went back and again corrupted themselves, and that's in italics here, and corrupted worse than their fathers, to go after other gods, to serve them, and to worship them. So another typo. We found another typo on the internet anyway. So this is confirmed. It is and. Okay. So that doesn't happen very often, to find typos. Confirmed typo. It is and in the hard copy. Okay, and then we have stubborn ways versus stubborn way. Stubborn ways. So it's not just one way that they were stubborn, there's many ways. They abandoned not their devices nor their stubborn ways. So when you think of the word way, you think of directions, different paths, but these are different activities. They're stubborn lifestyle, let's just put it that way. Okay. For as much as this nation has forsaken my covenant, versus he said, because that this people has transgressed my covenant. So forsaken versus transgressed, it sounds a lot more, it sounds worse in the Septuagint, which usually is rare, but yeah, they've forsaken my covenant. They've pretty much broken the promise, so to speak. They've left the covenant. Versus transgress, so breaking the covenant versus abandoning the covenant. Verse 21, there's an addition of when he died. When he died, okay? And that's all for this chapter. So that's all for Judges 2. Thank you very much for your time. Assalamu alaikum. Shalom aleichem. Peace be with you. Till next time, we'll look at Judges 3. And moving forward, I will not do intros and outros anymore. Just for the sake of time, I feel like this channel is stagnated somewhat. I have not been uploading very often, so I want to change that moving forward, especially in the next, for this book in particular. There's some events happening. I will do a separate video on that. So thank you again, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for your support. Please give this video a like if you are able to. Subscribe to this channel if you have not already. If you have, thank you very much for your support. I truly appreciate it. And until next time, this is Septuagint versus the Masoretic. We'll look at Judges chapter 3.